From Faith Forward Media, this is Healthcare Musings. I'm Dr. Hassaballa. Welcome to Healthcare Musings. Happy to have you with me. So, in March of 2025, the bunch of researchers at the annual Congress of the Society of Critical Care Medicine published research that tried to see is compliance with the SEP-1 Bundle, which is the bundle of things that hospitals are supposed to do for patients who have sepsis or septic shock or severe sepsis, mandated by the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, otherwise known as CMS. They have this SEP-1 Bundle, a whole bunch of things that need to be done, like you have to check, within 3 hours, you have to get a lactate, you have to give blood cultures before antibiotics, you have to give broad spectrum antibiotics. If they're hypotensive, you have to give them fluids at 30 ml per kilo, and if you can't, you have to document why. Then if there's septic shock or a lactate more than 4, you have to either start vasopressors, and then you have to do a repeat focus exam. All these prescriptive things that you have to do for patients who are septic, and it's retrospective, right? So when they look in the record for someone who documents sepsis, then they go back in time and see, did you do all these things? So and you have to comply with a certain percentage. And now, starting fiscal year 2026, there's money going to be attached to it. It's going to be part of the value-based purchasing program, which means that hospitals could be potentially penalized for not complying to a certain threshold. So there's a lot of people are annoyed by this, and so then these researchers said, okay, well, does compliance with the SEP-1 bundle affect outcomes? Does it improve mortality? Does there anything? And the data is bad, and there's no real evidence that it improves outcomes. And so people are like, okay, so then why are we doing this? Like, why are you making us do this if there's really no evidence that it improves outcomes in sepsis? Because that's the point, right? The point is, if you do these things, then you should improve sepsis outcomes. Because, again, sepsis care is pretty clear. You have to have a high index of suspicion. You have to give antibiotics as soon as possible. You should give blood cultures before. I am in the aggressive fluid camp. If they're hypotensive or intravascularly volume depleted, you have to give them a lot of fluid. And if they continue to be fluid responsive, you got to keep giving them fluid. So I'm in the aggressive fluid camp, and then source control. So, if you have to find the source. If there's an abscess, you have to drain it. If there is infected pleural fluid, you have to drain it. If there's an obstructive pneumonia, you have to relieve the obstruction. If there's an infected device, you got to take the device out. So source control. So if you do, that's it. That's basically how you take care of sepsis. Sepsis care, and you do well. And so. And that's kind of what the bundle does. The problem with the bundle is if you just miss one thing by 1 minute, you're out, right? If you give 29.9 cc's per kilogram fluid bolus, you're out, right? Unless you document why you couldn't give 30 ml per kilo. If you checked a lactate at 3 hours and 1 minute, you're out, and it's all or none. And that's the problem. That's the issue with the bundle. That's why a lot of people are frustrated with it. And so, and if it doesn't affect outcome, what are we doing? At the end of the day, it doesn't matter, right? So CMS is mandating it. Now money is on the line. And so we can rail all we want about it. We have to comply. Otherwise, there's going to be money left on the table. And just so you know, the place where I work, and I work at a lot of places, we do sepsis really well, right? So we have very good compliance with our with our sepsis bundle in the places that I work. So it's not, I share some of these frustrations with the bundle, and we do a good job. And so rather than just complain, we should start to figure out how to comply with the bundle so that we not get penalized, at least, right, for not complying with the bundle. And so the point of this episode is to kind of go over tips that I found in my practice of how you can improve compliance with a sepsis bundle. First thing I found is to turn on point of care lactate. Before you have to, a lot of places you have to go, it's a phlebotomy draw, and then it goes to the lab, and even if it's a stab, it can take some time, and that time is ticking. And you might miss on people who may be septic, but they don't, because people don't come to the hospital saying, hey, I'm septic. They come saying I'm tired and weak and nauseous, and I have chest pain, and I have rapid AFib, and all these things. So turning on point of care lactate is super helpful, right? And in one of the hospitals in which I worked, you can measure lactic on the blood gas machines. So we just turned it on. And so it's just an easy venous stick. You hand it to the respiratory therapist in the ER. There's a blood gas machine in the ER. Respiratory therapist runs it in the blood gas. You get lactic in 2 minutes. And that is huge. It makes a huge difference in being able to turn on point of care lactate. Also, if you can reflex in your lab, if it's more than 2, to automatically repeat the lactate within 3 hours, that's even better. Again, it's just automated. If it's 2.5, then automatically within 3 hours, another lactic acid is going to be drawn, ideally after intervention, to see is the intervention improving or not. That is also very, very helpful. So turning on point of care lactate and reflexing a repeat lactate if it's above 2. Second, education. It's super important to educate people about sepsis care, about the fact that you have to have a high index of suspicion. You have to be thinking about sepsis all the time because, like I said, people don't come in saying, hi, I'm septic to the ER. They don't, right? It's a whole host of signs and symptoms upon presentation, and then later gets manifested as septic shock. I remember a case that I had of a patient who came in with rapid AFib, and everyone was focused on the rapid AFib. And in fact, the patient was septic because she unfortunately had MDS, myelodysplastic syndrome, and was immunocompromised. And by the time she came to me in the ICU, she was in multi-organ failure. Unfortunately, she passed away despite everything we tried to do. Because again, people don't come in saying, hi, I'm septic. So, education about how sepsis presents, education about fluid resuscitation. I gave so many lectures about fluids. I'm in the people. You know what my nickname was in the ICU? Dr. Hassaballa, because I was so aggressive with fluids. Now you can overdo it, right? And you shouldn't overdo it, right? But you shouldn't underdo it either, right? So. And a lot of people I see underdo it, like the 250 cc bolus. Do you know what that is? A 250 cc bolus? It's a cup of coffee. It literally is it's a cup of coffee, and people give that bolus over 1 hour. So I have a cup of coffee here while I'm recording. You're literally sipping a cup of coffee over an hour, and you think that's going to help somebody who's septic, who's probably coming in dry, or maybe they've been vomiting, or maybe having diarrhea, or not been eating, or febrile and have insensible water losses? Come on. 250 cc's a cup of coffee. Even 500 cc's, that's like a bottle, or 750 cc's is a bottle of Coke, right? It's a 20-ounce bottle, and I had the visual of a little milk carton that's almost 250 cc's, or little hospital cans of Shasta or whatever, that soda, that's 250 cc's. But when we're running in the summer or whatever, when I was training for the marathon, we'd down a liter of Gatorade every hour. Right. Every time I would, in my training, I would run 3 miles and then down a liter of Gatorade during the summer when I was doing the long runs. So this was a long time ago. So come on, that's we do that to ourselves, but then we give our patients a cup of coffee and think we're doing something, and we think we're proud of ourselves. Now, some people, cannot tolerate fluid. Some people, if you're not fluid responsive, you don't just keep giving fluid. Again, there's Dr. Hassaballa to a point, right? And there's going to be another episode. I'm going to talk about how the a lot of the evidence, although there's a recent study that maybe showed the restrictive fluid strategy is better, but for the most part, all of the randomized trials so far that I know show that the restrictive fluid is not better, right? It's not. It may not necessarily be worse, but it's not better. So Dr. Hassaballa has been vindicated. But anyway, I give so much education about being aggressive, especially if they're intravascular volume depleted, especially if they have fluid responsiveness, you just can't keep giving fluid until they stop being responsive. So education. So I went all over. I went to the emergency room, emergency medicine colleagues. I went to the general medicine. I did CMEs, and to teach people about proper sepsis care, and then leading by example, right? Like, so having your medical director in the ICU, or maybe one of the staff intensivists who has interest, to lead the sepsis committee, to be on a sepsis committee, to form a sepsis committee, a multidisciplinary sepsis committee with critical care and hospital medicine and pharmacy and nursing and case management, and everybody together to go over and form the committee and look at sepsis cases and start analyzing the fallouts, so that you can figure out, is this a process issue? Is this an individual clinician issue? Or is there something else that we're just not seeing? So that's also super, super helpful. And it has to be multidisciplinary. Usually the critical care team leads the effort, but not necessarily, right? But I believe the critical care team should be, if not leading the effort, should definitely be a major part of it. Also having emergency medicine colleagues, because many of the septic patients present through the emergency department, right? So it's super important to make sure a lot of the early elements of the sepsis bundle are implemented appropriately in the hospital emergency department. And so turning on point of care lactate was very helpful. Reflexing to a repeat lactate is super helpful. Education on the part of clinicians and nurses and everything about sepsis, what it is, proper sepsis care, aggressive fluid resuscitation, forming a sepsis committee, making it multidisciplinary, including the crucial clinical teams that provide sepsis care. All of those are super, super important. And then again, just with time, that passion and that desire to do well will percolate, right? And we lead by example, and that's why it's super important for the emergency medicine, critical care, internal medicine clinicians be part of the effort, and then they lead the effort, and slowly but surely you improve, you get better. You're out. Like I said, at the hospitals in which I work, we have fantastic outcomes, and we have over 85% bundle compliance. So we know how to do sepsis. So even though I share the frustrations with the bundle, we know how to do sepsis right? And so it's just important. Complaining about it won't change. Fiscal year 2026, there's going to be money tied to it. We need to get with the program and learn how to do sepsis right from now. Anyway, thanks so much, guys, for your time and attention. And until next time, Hassaballa signing off on Healthcare Musings. Thank you for listening. Sign up at healthcaremusings.com to get every episode delivered directly to your email. And please don't forget to leave a 5-star review. Thank you so much.